Well, hello. We're doing another live. That's right. And I'm Ed Parcaut, the host of Real Estate Jerky and also of Real Estate Jerky Live. I'm here today with Bobby Atkins, and you're probably saying he's there every Tuesdays and Thursdays with you. That is correct.
It's a thing.
Yeah. And because of what's going on and how, I don't want to say how busy we are, but we try to go live the same time every week on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but it doesn't always work. And we don't always want to say, okay, we're going live at 11 a.m. or 10 o'clock or 9:30. We're going to do it when it works for what we're trying to do. And today we're going to you wanted to do appraisals, right?
Yeah. Appraisals is one of those things that, a lot of folks have a lot of questions on. Hopefully we'll have somebody here on the live today that might ask a question we can answer, but I think we should address most of them, at least in this. And there's multiple kinds of appraisals, but what we're going to worry about right now is just the primary one, which is, like the sales comparison approach.
Right. Well, let me do my little thing and you can do all your definitions. All right. So the biggest question I get asked is who pays for the appraisal and why do I need it? Right. And the other thing is, I guess I should say three. Some people confuse appraisal and the inspection that you do for them, right? That you help the house inspection. They confuse those two when they're brand new, getting ready to buy a house, never bought a house before. They're like, I thought I paid for that already. No, that was an inspection report. The appraisal is being done because they want to make sure that the value of the property is what you are getting, is what it's worth, is what you're paying for it. So when you get your loan on it, and that the buyer pays this because it's for their loan, right? That's the reason. If you're paying cash, you don't have to have an appraisal. But when you are buying with a loan, you do. Now, I'm going to add a little bit thing here called a PIW, which is a property inspection waiver. I know you didn't put a banner for that because that just popped in my head. Property inspection waiver means you don't need an appraisal on that property. It usually, and it's only on Fannie and Freddie transaction. That would be conventional loans. And on average, it's when you're putting 20% down or more. We had it a lot when we were doing refinances the last few years. It came up where they didn't have to check the value as long as it was in a certain percentage. And what happens is when we run the automated engines for underwriting, that's DU or LP, that's Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. I know I'm getting in the weeds, but that will tell us whether we need an appraisal or not. And we can run those things right ahead of time. If your client is writing an offer on a property, they're putting 20% down, and we can run DU and LP to see if we get a waiver. So then you can go ahead and release the appraisal contingency. So anyway, went way ahead, whatever. So now let's get into, I'm just saying there's so much about appraisals, and I have one here that I blocked out that took all the names off of to kind of go through so people understand what they see. But what happens is, it's only good for that transaction. You receive it. Right. The most important thing is, did the value come in? Right. And sometimes people go, did it come in for more value than what I'm buying it for? Right. 9 times out of 10, the appraiser will just bring it in at the sales price, even if it's worth more. Because once it closes, once it actually records, it's worth that value until other ones sell and raise the value again. So, and the other thing about that is if you're paying over asking, say you're paying $20,000 over asking, and a lot of people are like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Once it closes, it is now worth that value. So,
and that's why I figure we should do something on this, because there's a lot of things that are entailed with an appraisal that normally probably just get glossed over as long as they find value, right?
Right. I mean, you had some definition in here. I guess demand, unity. You really want to get, like, you're having an educational class today, aren't you?
Well, I figured if we're going to get into it, might as well. And
let's put these people to sleep. And I mean that with all due respect. And just because you say that doesn't mean you can offend me, right? I'm just kidding. So, I mean, you have on here demand, the desire for need for ownership supported by financial means to satisfy. That is a long definition.
Well, and so a lot of these definitions are the reason why we have an appraisal, right? So that's why I wasn't going to go in depth on them. I just want to gloss over them. So obviously there's a demand for the property, right?
Right.
We could skip right over to utility. Obviously utility means that it's going to be able to be something that the owner is going to be able to use, right? Satisfy the future owner's desires and needs.
This must have been a real estate class you had, huh?
Yeah,
yeah, I'm picking on you. That's great.
It's a little
I'm
dry,
trying to get you to move a little bit more so your wife doesn't give you a hard time about, you look just exactly the same each week. Yeah, it just cuts me in, puts me there.
Yeah. I know I'm guilty. Hey, my wife's my biggest fan, right?
Right. At least she watches them.
Yeah. Transferability is the ease of which ownership rights can be transferred. So, I mean, obviously, with most single family homes, transferring the
Right.
property not going to be a problem as
Right.
long as
So
there's not.
I just want to get into this.
Yeah,
Because basically when you do an appraisal, they're doing it for the sales comparison. There is the part where they look at what's it going to cost to actually do, actually rebuild it and look at that stuff. And that really doesn't come into play for us up here. But in like Southern California, where the land is worth way more than the property, they want to see what that value is to rebuild that house and the whole 9 yards. They kind of do it here, but our houses are worth more than the value in our area, Modesto. But if you go in the Bay Area, it's complete opposite. You're paying for the land. You're not in more than you're paying for the house.
Yeah,
usually. But I know there's a lot of stuff here, but I know we're already 5 minutes into this. If you don't mind me just flying through the appraisal real quick, showing a quick thing on the appraisal,
please do.
And then if you can finish up. So basically, this is what you're going to see when you get your appraisal. It's going to tell you who the borrower is, the property address, assessors, where it's at. I left some of the stuff in here, and then it goes down here with what's the actual contract price. So that would mean what you actually have your offer accepted at, date of the contract, that kind of stuff. That's what they start with. And they keep going down. I mean, this is a lot of this only for underwriting. I mean, it's not really that big of a deal. How many units? This was a 2-unit place. It had a concrete slab, partial basement. It tells you all the different things about the houses. This one actually had 2 houses. They were built in 1916. But the effective age, that means they've updated it, and currently it's 30 years old, right? For what they've done to it. Effective age can be different, and they've changed their appraisals to where things are different to how they look at it. But this breaks down. There was 2 units, 4 bedrooms, 1 bath in each one. It would, if this is a single family, it would just have none of the unit stuff there. Okay. And then we're talking about rent control, because this one is, but the same appraisal for whether it's a single family home or whether it's a unit or whether it's rental or not. The difference on a rental is we have rent surveys on the end that talks about what the rents are for the area. Okay. So it just breaks down comparables. So when they're looking for comparable houses, they look for the same square foot within usually 20%. So if you're in a neighborhood and your neighbors have a 2,300 square foot house and your neighbors have a 3,000, 3,500, 4,000, those might not necessarily be the right comps to verify what the value of your house is going for, right? Because a lot of the bigger houses have lower square footage per price than a smaller house. So a smaller house, if it's worth, say, $400 a square foot, that you can't take that times a 4,000 square foot house and say that's what my house is worth. It doesn't work that way. And a lot of people don't understand that. So it also talks about how utilities are done, if it's electric, water, sewer, gas, track. I mean, they go through everything. And a lot of people go, wow, that's a lot of work. Most of this is standard, just drop in. The appraisers already know it. But the big thing is you look at the sales price, price per square foot, the comparable sales. These are recent sales that have happened, and they have to have so many of them. And they go through and they pick the right ones. And then they do these adjustments. See, this is a big one. So say you have a house that backs up to Briggsmore, right?
Yep.
They're going to get you for traffic noise, right? Because that's a nuisance. And versus a house that's not back up to that. And so what they do is they add that 10,000 to the other places. They don't take it away from you. They add it to the other places. All right. And then they look at like condition of the place. Is it updated, average? What? See, like this one they took 20 grand away. This one, they took 40 grand away because of the value. They were not as upgraded, or they were more upgraded than this house. Are you following me?
Oh yeah. No, I think this is good. I'm glad you pulled this up because I think this is kind of knocking out a lot of the banners that I had already put up there. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I made you work ahead of time. But then they look at, what's the difference in the units? Like this, this one had this had 2 bedrooms, 1 bath. This one has total 3, but only 1 bedroom, 1 bath. So they added. And that's the same with a single family home. If you have 4 bedrooms and somebody else has 3 bedrooms and 2 baths, and you have 4 bedrooms and 4 baths, they're going to take away from your house or that other comp, or add whatever the difference is to make them all the same. And the reason I'm doing this is you're getting down to the bottom. And then they kind of give you the breakdown of each place, what it's worth, right? So the net adjusted, like, so it's from, so that I think we were in contract for 290, right? So this one's saying it's this one's worth 316, 315, and 345. So they got actually a deal on that property, right? Because usually they try to bring in the comps and have that 290 sit right in here in the middle. Are you following me?
Oh yeah.
Okay. And
no,
then,
I think it's understandable for everyone that's watching too.
So when they look at this and they're saying, okay, the other way they look at income approach, because they want to see was a rental, and they say that it's worth 360 because of the rents that they're getting for it. And then they add 3 more comps, comparable sales. And usually these are pendings and actives that are going on right now. All right. And they're with it. See, all these were within 0.36 of a mile, 0.65 of a mile. This one went a little bit further, 1.49. But let me go back. What were the other ones at? So this was 1.38. So this is the difference is because this was units, right? They had to go a little bit further out. If it was a single family home, they all be within a quarter mile on average to half mile to the house. But this is just breaks down the place, tells them what the value is. And then what happens is they look at did they miss any, was there anything that needs to be done? Is there any impact reports, mold or mildew? There was nothing on this one. And then basically I'm just going to go to the end. So everybody's like, what's the value? Where do you see that? And it's on one page where the appraiser signs on most of these. I took them out, but they would have put the value right here. So they said the value was worth 316. He got it for 290. I think you got a good deal.
Yeah, no kidding.
And then they talk, I mean, I'm just verifying it. So they show photos further on of the subject, front, rear, subject street. And then and then they start side, inside, attic. I can't say this was that I guess they could have done a better job on the photos. But when you do units, the tenants don't always clean up for you to take pictures.
Yeah, they're not normally as cooperative.
Right. But if this was I'm not saying this is a bad house, but if this was say a $800,000 house or a $600,000 house, these would be better pictures because it'd be all staged. But I just wanted to grab an appraisal. It's on average. Yeah. And then the side water heater, rear side, and then they get into the comps, the comparables, that the 1, 2, and 3 that was on there. They show pictures of them because we want to know where they're at, what it looks like, right? And the 4 and 5 and 6, and then they'll break down. We'll get through all this rental stuff. This was an FHA appraisal, so they put their FHA clause stuff in here and they go through it. This one actually didn't have much issues, which was surprising because a lot of times when you're buying these, as a unit and with FHA, they're going to have all these different issues that they have to deal with before it gets closed. And this one didn't. It was amazing. So,
especially considering the age of the property.
Oh yeah. I'm just trying to get to where, and this is going to be a little tricky because I couldn't clean it up. So they're just this, it goes on. And so they break down the sketch. When you see an appraiser come out to your house, they walk around it and that's what they're doing. They're measuring to see how what it looks like on everywhere. Okay. And the covered porch. And what's funny about this is this uncovered porch. If they don't put this on here and then we see there's a porch, they have to actually go and fix this and put it back on. Right. And the covered porch, I had one right now we had to send back out because they didn't put the deck on that was there, which is, it's been snowing, but I'm sure he wanted to get home. And then they just break down more, stuff about the property. So everybody knows what's going on. And they talks about the transfer of the property, 36 months, of the comps when they transferred last. It's fully involved. And it's going to show where the subject is, and compared to the comps. You see how fast I went. Mm-hmm. See, the subject's the one in red. I couldn't get rid of the address on that, so that's why I flew through there. But it breaks down to see how close the comps are compared to the subject. Because if you're right here, but all your comps are way out here by the airport, other places, that might not be the same house. So you want to make sure that they're close to it. And that's basically everything on the appraisal.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was pretty detailed. I appreciate that, Ed.
Well, I just, it's kind of boring stuff, 15 minutes, but that's what an appraisal is. And people go, I want my, and you get a copy of your appraisal once it's in. So on average, it could, sometimes it can be done in 7 days or less. Sometimes it takes 10, just depending on where they're located. At VA, the appraiser actually has 10 days to type up the report from the date they actually see the property. right? So they can take the longest. They don't always take that long anymore. They're pretty quick because it's a standard appraisal these days for that. The FHA conventional, all those are ordered through a management company or you have panel appraisers. VA is still ordered through the VA portal. So we order it through there. They go out and they find the VA appraiser and move forward. So,
and not that it doesn't happen, but if you have a good listing agent, your contract price, unless you went above and beyond the list price, it should come in at value, right? Because most of us know we're going to look at within a quarter-mile radius for our comps before we even give you what a market value is to list it at, right?
Right.
Now, I have seen some people try and stretch it and go as far as a mile out and a year back. Doesn't really work in this market for comps.
Well, the only time, you need at least, here's an example, log cabin, right? You have a log cabin. You want to sell a log cabin. You have to have at least one comp in the last 90 days of a log cabin, preferred 2. That's where, or if you're selling acreage and you have you have 10 acres and whatever, you might have to go out 5 miles because that's okay, because that's how all those properties are, right? Everybody has acres and that's okay. But if you have a single family home, it should be right there, unless you're dealing with Loma College area in Modesto, right? Those are 2 same areas pretty much, right? Yeah. Well, that doesn't mean across on the other side of McHenry is the same, right? I'm talking the east side of McHenry. Might not be the same as in actual college area by certain houses. So that's where you look at the different, where they go for comps, where Del Rio would just only be Del Rio, right, in our area.
Correct. Yeah. I was say, and like college and the Loma area are a little bit harder when it comes to finding comps, because almost every house is a custom home, and they all have different features, and they've had additions, and some have pools, and there's a lot of factors that go into it. But kind of tying into that location, right?
Yeah, track homes, very easy.
Super easy. So
somewhat super easy. So and those are the ones I want to say are more likely to get the PIWs by location, and that's what we ran into up in Tuolumne County when we were doing refinances last year, or purchases with 20% down, and we weren't getting PIWs. That's the property inspection waivers, because the address for the property wasn't popping up right in the postal system, because they used that standard address to figure it out. And we found that's what one of the big issues is up there. It has to be a perfect address wherever you're located. So less rural places will get it, more in-town places will get it. I mean, rural won't get it, in-town will get it more likely.
And so kind of tie into the location of the property, right? So there's a home I sold last year that is literally across the train tracks, is in technically another city, right? Is in Empire.
Empire.
Yeah. And if that home was half a mile on the other side of the train tracks, it'd be worth about $60,000 more.
Yeah. And that's when I tell people, when you're looking at, it's not how much I can qualify you for, but it's how much of a payment you want. But also the difference between $20,000 could be a different street or neighborhood over. And that's what you just said. And that's the big thing. Location is the most important thing when you're buying real estate. Right.
Absolutely.
I forget who was that said, it was in a show. He's like, what's the most important thing when you're selling real estate? He says, one is 3 things: location. Like, that's one thing. Yeah, exactly. But it's the most important thing. That's all you say.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah. I mean, and you have to really, and I had somebody call me today to get qualified, and they want to buy a bigger house because they need another bedroom. Well, their payment's going up $500 a month. And it's not so much because of the loan and everything, but the taxes, because now they're going from a $300,000 tax base to a $500,000 tax base, right? That's an extra $200 and some a month just in taxes. And so you run the numbers and they're like, oh, I don't know. Do it, because you need that house. The house is going to go up in value. You need that other bedroom. Make it, let's get rid of some of your other debt before you move forward. So it makes it easier for you. And that's what I've been saying for the past year, that because we put so many people on 2% interest rates, when they're looking at moving up, they're really looking at, do I want to move up and have a bigger payment? Because it's not so much that it's like they're that big move up, but now you're moving up from a 2% interest rate to a 3% something interest rate. I mean, our interest rates have moved a lot in the last 2 weeks.
And projected to move a lot more by the end of the year, right?
Right. I mean, on average, I was looking, and I mean, I'm pretty sure Fannie Mae is going to be putting out next week that the average rate is going to be 3.3 to 3.5.
Yeah, that's pretty quick.
See how I noticed I said Fannie Mae is going to do
Yes.
that, not me say that? Yeah.
Yes.
Because
Parcaut
otherwise I
talked
have to
about
do APR.
Yeah.
So there's appraisals. There's a lot going on this year in 2022. If you're thinking of buying, you need to do it now. Rents are going to go through the roof. Because people are going to be edged out of the market of buying homes. They're going to go into rental. So you think rental prices are expensive now? Wait, by the end of the year, the numbers are supposed to be even higher. Like, you'll be really shocked. A lot of people go, well, there's kind of a rent control, right? They can only go up so much. And I was telling somebody else, that is correct. So that means every time your lease is coming due, they're raising your rent to the max that they can. Instead of going, hey, thanks for being a great tenant for the last 5 years, we're not raising your rent. No, not anymore. Every time it comes due, it's going up. Thank your government. Well,
and here's the reality of that is, so say somebody's been like in an apartment, for years, and they say, oh, okay, well, 5%, I've only, my rate was $950 and they keep increasing me, right? That's not the case. They can give you a 60-day notice. They can say that they're, rehabbing that property, and they can give you a 60-day notice to move. And now you're back out in the market with the adjusted rate.
And can they now adjust that new place to the new prices, or no?
Oh yeah. And that's the main reason they're going to do that. They're anybody that's way under market value, they're going to pretty much pay them 1 month's rent to move after the 60-day notice.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to remodel it and put it back on the market at the current market rate, which, is crazy.
And what's the definition of remodel?
Yeah, I mean, cabinets, counters, but most of the apartments, when they're doing that now, a single family home, probably not a whole lot, because really they're just looking to get more rent.
Paint.
Yeah, I actually there's a rental coming up, that they're just doing some flooring, and it's going to go on the market probably around $2,800.
Yeah, I'm telling people. I mean, these people were looking at a house for $500,000 with 20% down, and their payment was $2,500, or almost. So buy a house.
Yeah.
Because start building personal wealth for yourself and stop building it for your landlord.
Absolutely.
And if I had a mic, I'd drop it.
Yeah.
I do, but it's too expensive to drop.
Yeah, not these ones.
Yeah. Well, that one's not so bad. That's the traveling ones I have you work on. But this one definitely is one you don't want to drop. But again, Bobby, thanks for being here today. And I want to thank everybody for watching. So, call to action, where we say, we want to make sure that you have that. You need to take this information and get into contract. And what I mean by that is, like you were saying to me yesterday, people are asking how much mortgage payments or whatever. Should I send them to you? Call me, text me, direct message me. If you're thinking about buying a house, if it's at that point, and you might not be ready, that's okay. Get a hold of us, get a hold of me, so I can run your numbers, tell you where you're at, and tell you what you need to do to get to where you want to be to get that house. So that's what you need to do. Stop thinking, start working on it. We want action now. Stop thinking about it, because if you think about it, by the end of this year, you're going to be $400 to $500. Let's just say $400 more a month than you can buy right now.
And the whole reason we're doing these videos is to kind of educate folks, because you'll hear a lot of the same talking points, from other agents saying, now's the time to buy, but it really is the time to buy. If you're, like Ed said, even if you're not ready right now, talk to us. We can get you pointed in the right direction. And it's always good to have a plan.
You need a plan. And it's the same thing with life. If you don't plan, that's people who fail to plan to fail.
Here's a little anecdotal story. Yesterday, I was doing some just door-to-door marketing, and I spoke with the lady, and she's like, what? I think it's probably the time to buy. She's like, I've been renting this house for 30 years.
Oh,
I said, well,
it's probably too late for you, ma'am, because you're probably on a fixed income.
She wasn't. I think she was still at the working age.
Okay.
But I just thought, man, 30 years, you would have just been making your last year of payments if you would have.
Yeah, you would have been done. Yeah. And at 30 years ago, that thing would have probably been 80 grand or less.
And probably every year she probably talked herself out of why she needed to buy a house.
I'm going to possibly be moving someday in the future. Yeah. All right. So like we said, reach out to us. We could get you on the path, and we're not trying to sell this and push you. We're just trying to help, because the best thing you can do is build that personal wealth for yourself, not somebody else. And how you get started. Most millionaires and billionaires was made by real estate. Well, we just want you to get your first house. Then if you like that, then we can work on other stuff so you can build that down the road. But the most important thing is get you in your first house.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Bobby. And thanks for everybody for watching. And if you watch this afterwards, just hashtag that replay. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too, Ed.
Hold on. Oh, that was a hey. All right. So that was it. I thought it was an important comment. That is an important comment. All right. Everybody have a great day. Yeah.
All right.